Right, so my tip number one is about being visible. Now, this may sound a little bit obvious, but I've met far too many tradespeople that have come along to my house, right, in a white van, as an example. Other colour vans are available. But in my opinion, they're missing an opportunity here to brand their van with their company name and what they do. And when I've asked why do they not have a branded van, I've had a number of pushbacks on it. It's expensive to do. It makes my insurance go up, and it makes my van a target for being broken into to steal my tools. Look, all of those, in my opinion, are valid reasons, but also a little bit of sort of lame excuses, as it were, right? You take that van to every single job that you go to, you drive to your suppliers, you drive around town, maybe you use that van in your free time as well. It's I was going to say a walking advertisement. It's a driving advertisement for you, right? There's a reason why bus advertising is so popular, right? It works. So my number one tip to you in terms of being visible is to make sure that you utilize the livery or the sign writing on your van. Top tip here, though, is don't overcomplicate things. Don't cover your van in all sorts of bits and bobs. You need it to be quite succinct, because your van travels around and you want people to see your message and understand what you do without having to read too much. So maybe your company name, description of what you do, you're a plumber, and then maybe use QR codes in order to drive people to your website. And what you can do is you can have a special landing page, so that when people scan the QR code, they turn up at a page, and you can make that page really specific to try and get them to convert, to get in touch with you. That's what you really want to do, right? So they're curious. So maybe they land on a page that says, "Thanks for scanning my van. Now give us a call and tell us what you need me to help you with." All right. So it's a more of a direct call to action. What about business cards? I mean, it's a little bit old fashioned, but get some business cards, because you can leave them with people when people ask you for a quote. Make sure you give them a couple of business cards. So there's always one to pass on to a friend. Business cards are also very useful if you're trying to sort of start up your business and you're doing some networking. Obviously, you hand those out, but maybe you want to pop along to your local supermarket. I know a lot of them, like Tesco's, they'll have a rack near the checkouts where you can pop your local business cards in for people to pick up on local businesses. Or even like at my local gym now, there's a little business card dispenser for local businesses to pop their cards in. So there's always opportunities there to be visible with your products and your brands. What about your, what about giving your customers a recommend a friend type flyer? Giving them something to help them refer you to their friends and family. Maybe you want to include a small offer. I'm not talking about anything major, but maybe you offer a 10% discount to a referred customer. Bearing in mind you're in charge of the quote that you give them, right? I'm not saying you to be disingenuous, but also when you reward the person or the customer that's given the recommendation, you don't have to give them services for free or a discount off the next bill, but maybe something that is low ticket, like a Amazon gift card or a iTunes voucher, something they would perceive as sort of a nice little bit of value to them. Think about referring a friend. What about your uniform, right? And again, I see various tradespeople turn up at my house. Some of them are wearing branded uniform, and it gives off a much more professional look when they do rock up like that. And also think about when you're out and about, when you pop down to Greg's for your lunch and you're getting your sausage roll, having your logo on your chest is just, again, another form of advertising. Why I'm sort of giving you lots of options here is because on average, people will have needed to interact with you or your brand or have seen your company about 7 times, right? So, and 7 times is the average amount of times they need to see before they're engaged, right? So some people will take a lot more times, and some people will take a lot less. But the point being is that you want to try and be seen as many times as possible so that people feel quite comfortable with you. So make sure you do get your workwear branded up. What about promotional items? Have you thought about that? I mean, tradespeople are synonymous with having a cup of tea, right? So why don't you get some mugs done with your logo on, or with your USP on? Maybe you're quite playful in your approach to your customers, so maybe have, you know, something a little bit quirky. But when you rock up there and they say, "Do you want a cup of tea?" You say, "Yeah, I'd love a cup of tea. There's my mug, and I brought one for you." This is referred to as dwell time, right? You want to provide promotional items which are going to have dwell time. They're going to hang around for longer than you do. And when they get put into the mug cupboard, they'll get pulled out on a regular basis. And, you know, you can use modern technology by putting QR codes onto them these days. Maybe it says how you take your tea. Maybe it says, you know, John has his tea, white and 2 sugars, whatever it may be. Right? Have some fun with it. What about a work in progress sign? What it's old school, right? But these things work. Having a sign that's pushed into the ground outside the house that you're working at, people will see your services, they'll see your van. And again, you know, most people have got neighbors, right? And most people want to feel like they're using somebody that's being recommended. So think about those sort of optics. You need to be seen regularly and often. What about thinking about when you send out your quotes, some kind of folder or something to keep the documents in, especially with, say, builders that are taking on large projects. I know when I've had some large extension work done, there's loads of bloody paperwork that needs to be kept in one place. So maybe not a folder, but maybe you think about giving people one of those large sort of zippy plastic things, right, where you can stick a sticker of your logo on top, and it'll give them the opportunity to keep it as a job bag, if you like, with all of the receipts and all of the quotes and that sort of stuff in. Again, it's something that sort of dwells around. It's also really nice to think about sending someone before they've engaged with you, that sort of pitch stage or the quote stage. Also think about something to leave with someone afterwards, about a review or refer a friend, right? Sort of pre and post. Specifically, what about promotional items like the mugs, but what about by trade? So I've made some little notes here. So what I know that like a plumber, when they service the boiler or when they install a new boiler, will put a sticker on it that says, you know, serviced or installed by John's Boiler Services. Call us in a year's time for your next service or whatever. Yeah, that's all well and good. But what about the plumber having some radiator keys made up with your logo on? You know, something that again is small cost. What about electricians? What about the old electrical screwdrivers? These are just a couple of pound each. You could wrap your company logo around those. With decorators, what about getting some masking tape made that's printed with your company details, or some dust sheets with your logos on? And maybe for builders, you know, buy a whole a job lot of affordable tape measures and over sticker things with your company logo, right? These are nice things. Or carpenters, you know, those massive oversized pencils that the carpenters use. Again, all these things have low value in terms of the cost to you, but they hang around a lot within people's homes. So there we go. Tip number 1, crammed loads in there for you on being visible. Tip number 2, acting social. Okay, now I mean this on a couple of fronts. The first one is, if you are starting out, I highly recommend that you get involved with a networking group. There are many networking groups out there, and from personal experience, I can tell you now that tradespeople do extremely well through networking groups. Okay, so if you are starting out, or let's say you're thinking about leaving a company that you're working with and you want to go on your own, then that's a great way to start your business. Some of them charge, some of them don't, some of them have rules, some of them don't, some of them have more rules than are necessary, some of them don't. Okay, but there are opportunities to meet people and to get your name out there. So think about being social, acting social, meeting and greeting, when you're at social occasions, parties, have your little business cards in your pocket and don't be afraid to tell people about what you do. Now, the real point of acting social, I'm talking about social media. Now, one of the misconceptions now of most businesses is they think they need to be on all social media channels. But I'm here to tell you that in the first instance, you don't. I would think about where your target market are. And if you know where they are, then be on that platform. But for the majority of tradespeople, it's really Facebook is going to be where you need to be. Now, acting social media, the clue is in the title. You need to be social on social media. So if you start off a page on Facebook, you need to add content to it regularly, but you also need to sort of keep up on it. And here's some sort of tips for you. So when you establish a presence on social media and someone leaves a comment or asks a question, try and be as timely as you possibly can to respond to it, to answer it. Okay, try and answer it in a way that the question, it's like an open-ended answer, that you're trying to pull a little bit more information from the person that's asking the question. The more conversations you have, the better. Social media is not about likes, it's not about views, it's about engagement. Asking these open-ended questions, sharing how you solve problems. That's how to make a big breakthrough on social media. With Facebook specifically, there is definitely this sort of referral or do you know or recommender. So establish yourself a good social media page on Facebook, and quite frankly, your connections will do the rest. Asking people for customer recommendations. You know, a lot of the pushbacks I hear on this is, Miles, I just haven't got time to do social media. Well, you know, you don't need to do it. Your customers can do it for you. I don't mean quite literally. Yes, they may share a post, and yes, you may reshare it. But taking the time perhaps to ask your customer if they would be happy to do you a recommendation once you finish your work. Maybe you structure this as a video. And you say to them, look, would you mind just doing a little short video on my phone? I've got 3 questions to ask you. What was the problem that you needed sorting? Oh, my boiler had broken. What did we do to fix it? Well, we installed a new boiler. And would you recommend me to a friend? Yes, I would. You've been very clean and tidy, right? That sort of thing is very powerful. And that is what you can post on your social media. If they don't want to do it to camera, you can just ask them and write it down and create like a little static post that you can post on social media. Maybe they'll leave you a Google review, right? So there's just a couple of pointers. You could start to vlog. You could, you know, you rock up in your van. You're outside the property. You do a little piece to camera on your mobile phone, saying, "Oh, it's 6:45. I'm outside Mrs. Jones's. I'm about to replace her boiler." And then you record a little video halfway through the day saying, right, we've got the boiler out, everything is thing, we're flushing it through, blah, blah, blah. And then you record another one saying, Mrs. Jones is really happy. It's 7 o'clock. I'm off home now. You know, these things don't have to be long and drawn out. They can be very short and sharp. You could take it one step further if you wanted to and invest in a standalone camera. You could film some time-lapse footage. There's a big push, if you like, to link things back to, say, long-form video on a YouTube channel. And if you've got a website, I would recommend setting yourself up a YouTube page, filming long-form video, posting that on your YouTube page, and maybe linking it back to your website. You can chop these things down, use them for social media. So you can be quite efficient with how you produce your content. So think about what your USP is when you're talking on social media. You may be a carpenter that's great at doing dovetail joints, right? But you may actually just be really clean and tidy. And you may just leave properties tidier than when you actually arrived. Now, that would be something I would pay for in a tradesperson, right? And play on that. If you're after more ideas, look on social media, Follow people that you actually like and just copy what they do, right? There's no new ideas here. Copy what they do because obviously it's working for them. Make sure you tag your customers. Make sure that you put time in your diary to formulate your social media. And I'm going to say to you now, if you're new to it, posting once a week is absolutely fine, right? It's absolutely fine, but post some quality once a week. Maybe you've got some hacks. Yeah, maybe you've got some hacks. And that brings me on to my third tip, building authority. Okay, this is all about you becoming an expert in your field. And like I said, you may have this quality skill of providing superb joinery when it comes to your carpentry, but you may put the toilet seat down when you finish with it, or you may just be a super clean freak and leave a really, really tidy job after yourself. Make sure that you keep pushing this message in all of the things that we've just talked about. So in all of your branding and your communications, make sure that you're pushing that message that you are an expert in terms of what you do and what you offer. That is why people use you, right? Make sure you keep pushing your USP. Hacks on social media. Now, again, like I said, I think Facebook would be the place for you to start, but maybe you've got like a really fun group of guys and girls that you work with, and you might want to get involved with TikTok. Now, TikTok has got like an international audience, and I'm sure you could get hundreds of thousands of views for like cleaning out pools very well. But I would say spend your time on Facebook where it's a little bit more local to where you actually offer your services. Let's face it, getting a comment of somebody who lives in Idaho is not going to be very much help to your business, right? But you get where I'm coming from. The last thing I would say is, think about Google reviews, right? And again, linking those back to your website. So there's Trust a Trader, there's lots of other sort of review sites, right? But Google reviews specifically helps build authority within your website. You get sort of extra points in terms of the SEO there, right? So that is what I would recommend to you there. Now, I'm just looking at my clock. I've talked for about 20 minutes. So that seems like a nice time to have a little summary, and I'll have a look at the chat and see if there are any sort of specific questions there. So in summary, my tips are: make yourself visible. Make sure that you produce enough materials so that people actually know you're there and they see you regularly and often. Tip number 2 is be social. Get yourself onto social media, but make sure that you approach it in a way that you can manage it and set time aside to create content. Don't overcomplicate things and just keep pushing what your uniqueness is, and keep driving that authority, bringing us on to tip number 3, that you are an expert in your field. Do this consistently, and slowly but surely you will raise up and become a very, very popular tradesperson.